These are my supernatural characters that I think about far too much for the amount of screen time they had. So these had about 5 minutes screen time 15 years ago, but I still think about them. So number one being Daphne. So I'd even look up her name. But do you remember this was Cass's wife when he was Emmanuel? So when he came back and he couldn't remember who he was. But if we think about Daphne's story for a minute, she was out and she saw a naked man who couldn't remember who he was. She decided to take him in and marry him. Turned out he had magical healing powers. And then, yeah, they're married for like 6 months. And then she gets tied to a chair. Another man comes in, tells her that that was a demon, takes her husband away. And then she must never hear about her husband again because he then goes into the psych ward and then he goes to purgatory. So she's probably like looking like, I guess, police reports for her husband who just disappears off the face of the earth. Like, that is mad. I wonder if Cass at ever point messaged her again, like a few seasons later, and be like, oh, by the way, you know, I remember who I am now. Sorry about that. And just the thought that Cass had a wife for like 6 months. I mean, I know he had another wife later on, apparently. But yeah, like, what did they do in those 6 months? Like, did they have some nice dates? That he had a whole blank where he's a married man for a bit. Like, I feel like we just moved on from that way too fast. Okay, next, Jesse, which I feel like everyone says. He was just in one episode, he was the Antichrist. But I feel like, one, he could have been used so much more. Like, yes, he was powerful, that would have been interesting. And I'm a fan of Good Omens, so I would have liked to see how that played out. But I feel like I would have just liked to see more of him just because of him as a character. Like, they talked about, oh, they were going to bring him to Bobby and Bobby would bring him up. And I want to see that. Like, I want to see him moving in with Bobby, him and Bobby training together. Like, I would have thought that'd be fun. You know, and he does fit into the theme of the show. So, you know, he was a child and it's like he didn't want this, he didn't ask for this, is he going to be evil? Like, I know they play that out a lot in Supernatural, but I feel like he was a really good character to play this with. And also the fact then, actually in the show, what happened is he went to Australia, I guess, from looking at a map. So is he just chilling out in Australia? Like, he had to leave his parents behind? Did he get adopted over there? What's he doing? I hope he's living a good life. I would have loved to see more of him. Right, another classic, so Cassie from season 1, who was Dean's girlfriend. I mean, I think pre-seasons, but yeah, the one sort of Dean's true love that he had pre-seasons. And one, I just think they were really well together. But again, imagine being her. So you're dating someone, you think he's basically breaking up with you when he tells you that he needs to go off to fight monsters with his dad. You think he's insane. And then you find out later that monsters are real. I just hope that throughout the seasons they actually did keep messaging each other. I like to think Dean has like someone that can support him who knows about the hunting world but isn't a hunter themselves. I just feel like they had a nice connection. I don't know. I'd have liked to see her come back, like, again, just once or twice, just to check in with Dean, be a friend, and see how they get on, you know? And I feel like a lot of people say that they would have rathered him go to her than Lisa. I know it was Lisa because of Ben, but yeah, I would have liked to see him go back to Cassie. Like, I loved Cassie. I would have loved to see more of her. Now, I don't know if I can include them because they technically weren't in the show, but in the French Mistake, so when you get Sam and Dean go to that alternative universe and they're Jared and Jensen, what happened to the Jared and Jensen in that universe? And I like to think that they came into the Supernatural universe. And I like to think that, you know, they arrived and they decided to get a coffee or something and then some demons tried to kill them and they were like, monsters are real, what? And like, yeah, I wonder if they could like use some sort of hunting skills because they were actors, right? And they could act it. So were they able to fight them? I just like to think about them living in the world. I'd also love it if when Sam and Dean got back to this universe that they didn't get transported back. Which, I mean, in fairness, like their whole crew got killed. So they stay here. And then like a few seasons later or something, Sam and Dean meet up with Jared and Jensen. I just thought that'd be a really fun episode. Again, for 2 characters that didn't even exist in the show, I do think about that a lot, but I think that would have been really fun. Again, I am slightly cheating a bit with Balthazar because he is in a few episodes, but again, I miss him. I would have loved him being in longer. And I think like I loved him as a character, he was funny and all that, but I loved him and Cass together. Like, I feel like it would have been nice for Cass to have like a big brother figure that looked out for him, an angel that could teach him like a bit of the way of the world, because I feel like only relying on Sam and Dean, and then obviously he wasn't in half the episodes, you know, it would have been nice if there was a few episodes of him and Balthazar and maybe they go out hunting together, you never know, or just go about. I feel like they would have been fun episodes. And yeah, Balthazar was also a vibe. I feel like he was gone too soon. And then I've also got Ben and sort of Emma, but not so much for their characters that they were just little kids or whatever. But I do want to know, is Ben Dean's son? And whether you think he is or not. I like to think he is, but then that makes it really sad that then Dean did just cut him out his life. And it's like, if that is actually actually your biological son. That's really sad. But yeah, I would have loved just not to have wiped their memories and like, I say, not saying they had to live together and all that, but just occasionally check in with Ben. You know, maybe he did some hunting when he grew up. I'm not sure. I just feel like I like to think, you know, were they related or not? And then also Emma, if you remember that Dean had a daughter for about 5 minutes in, what season was it? Season 7, where she was born and then tried to kill him. But if she was able to be saved and then, yeah, just got to live her life, I feel like that would have been an interesting one. Again, just occasionally check back in, see how she's doing. But I would have loved just to increase their circle of friends and family and people they know. It would be interesting. Okay, again, don't know how many episodes you can count Jimmy Novak was in, but I'm going to go mainly the Rapture in season 4, and that is one of my favourite episodes. Like, I think about Jimmy Novak like he's my long lost husband. I love that man. I don't know what it is about him, but I think about him, everything that he sacrificed, and then for Cass, like, to be a Cass lover, but also to love Jimmy is hard. Yeah, I just think about everything he went through. And it wasn't really till season 10 we got Cass sort of acknowledge that when he started thinking about Claire. It's like, Cass, it took you 6 years to realise that actually you messed up Jimmy's life. And when he took Jimmy, he promised, he was like, oh, Jimmy, I promise your family will be safe. It's like, Cass, you lied. You let Jimmy die. You let the wife, I mean, she left and in the end get killed. And you weren't going to do anything about it. And you let Claire go into a group home. Like, that was just a straight out lie to Jimmy. At least he, you know, ended up happy in heaven and all that. But yeah, I feel like too many people don't think about him and he plagues a lot of my thoughts. Another people we only see for one episode that I think about a lot, Caesar and Jesse. So they were in season 11 and they were the couple and they were hunters and then they were gonna finish that hunt and then retire and I think get a ranch and some horses. And I really hope they had that dream. I feel like the hunting world maybe got a bit small later on and it would be nice just to keep it open, and these were the perfect people. I feel like everyone loved them. And yeah, I would have loved them to be retired and to say maybe Sam, Dean and Cass at some point later on go and visit them and visit the horses, and then it could be that the whole storyline of they realise, oh, there can be life after hunting and they could retire and maybe this is what they'd want. I would have just loved to see that in an episode. But probably Sam, Dean and Cass arriving would have messed up their life. So I'm happy that they had their peace and I hope they live happily ever after and they have their horses and nothing bad ever happens to them again. Again, don't know if these count as people, but Sam's college friends, other than Brady, who was the demon in the end, and then obviously Jess that died, but the people that knew him at college and were friends with him, like in their storyline, again, Sam was there, they were friends, Jess died, he left, fine. And then a few years later you see him on the news as a mass murderer. What are they thinking? What are they gossiping? Were they like, I always saw the signs? Or, yeah, I like to think they'd be like, do you remember that guy in our lecture? Look at him, he's on the FBI top wanted. I wonder if like the police ever came and interviewed them. I think there's like a true crime documentary series about Sam and Dean and they come back and interview all their friends and yeah, they get to be like, he seemed really normal. And then yeah, on the other side of that, the town people from the town where the bunker is, Lebanon. And we get to see these in the 300th episode special where they're sort of chatting about Sam, Dean and Cass and stuff. But I would have loved to see so much more. Or just, again, in my head, just think about what are they thinking. So obviously we know Sam and Dean go by their brothers and they're the Campbells, right? How do they introduce Mary? Is Mary their mum? Because she obviously looks way too young to be their mum. But then are they like, she's our sister, but then they keep calling her mum? That would be weird. And who do they think Cass is? Because Cass comes occasionally, and occasionally I guess later on has Jack as well, sometimes around. And then where do they think they live? Because I assume they don't think they live in the bunker. Maybe they know the bunker exists, but they're like, okay, they live somewhere in town, but no one knows where. And do they see them just coming back covered in blood occasionally? I don't know. I feel like they would be like a big town gossip. And I'd like to see how they piece it all together. Okay, so these were just a few people that off the top of my head, I'm like, yeah, I think about these way too much for them actually either not having names or being in about 5 minutes.